Hey, it's Jamie Scrimger. When I became a stepmom, I quickly realized that while moms are encouraged to keep it real, there's a big double standard when it comes to stepmoms. So I decided to start the conversation myself. Thriving as a stepmom doesn't just come from conversations about being a stepmom, though. Here we dive into marriage, relationships, personal growth, and more. My mission? Inspire you to live a kick-ass life while bringing you along as I create my own. This is the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast.
Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. All right, so today we are going to be chatting about probably one of my favorite topics in the stepmom space, something I'm super passionate about, and it's disengaging. So if you have been following me for any length in time, you would probably heard me say that I think there is a right way to disengage as a stepmom and a wrong way to disengage. And I'm not saying it's right and wrong for everyone, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of stepmoms have a goal of, improving relationships, feeling appreciated, feeling like they belong in their family dynamic. And, we have dreams of how our families will, quote unquote, blend. And a lot of the resources out there, a lot of the talk about disengaging, I believe, can bring stepmoms further away from that. So when I say that, I don't know if you guys have heard about the nacho kid method. So it's like disengaging, like nacho kid, nacho problem, like kind of like, screw you. I don't have anything to do with this because you aren't respecting me or you guys aren't doing things the way that I think you should be doing them. Or, it's loaded. I'm making assumptions, but there's the nacho kid perspective, like not my kid, not my problem, not my responsibility. And then there's my approach to disengaging, which I've done several times throughout my career as a stepmom, and it's probably saved my marriage and my relationship with my stepkids. And it's been something that I've supported a lot of other stepmoms in my coaching programs, in the membership, in doing as well with great results. So I get a lot of questions about this. And so I brought on my main man, Darren, here. So my husband, Darren, is here for this episode. And we're just going to go through some questions that have come in about disengaging. So hi, honey.
Good morning.
I got to tell you guys, I don't know if I've said this on air yet, but we used to sit in our pajamas in the morning before the kids go to school and hammer out some podcast episodes. And it worked so well for us. And now the podcast space has evolved and you need the video production and you need this and you need that. And that's really kind of prevented me from doing a lot of these episodes because I have to set everything up and we just don't have the time. So we're just doing it old school for the next
morning in the
episodes.
pajamas was a lot easier, and then we could both go on with our day.
Yeah. Don't have a big production studio here, so we're just this is it. So gonna go through some of the questions that you guys submitted over on my Instagram account. So let's start with how to do it the right way. How do you disengage the right way? And I think it's not all just this is not my kid, this is not my problem, I'm not doing anything for you guys, screw you. That creates a lot more distance in your relationship and in your family. And I don't like that mentality.
And I think from my perspective, it's not, I wouldn't say a disrespect thing, but it is also, we're a partnership, we're married. I don't think you can take that approach because, like you've always said, when you marry me, you almost marry into the family. And I get you can draw a line in the sand and you can walk away from situations, but to say that I'm just going to never have anything to do with this is very hard because it's a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm. And, so say there was something, let's just, for example, I would disengage from taking the kids to school because I felt unappreciated. I'm making this story up. Because I felt unappreciated. I felt like the kids were disrespectful. I felt like this shouldn't be my responsibility, So instead of being I'm not doing this anymore, just cold turkey being out, you have to have a conversation about what's working and what's not. But you also have to remember at the end of the day, you're a partnership with your partner. So maybe you end up setting kind of a boundary or a new way of doing something and saying, you know what? That doesn't work for me anymore. We need to reevaluate how we are dividing up those responsibilities. But then, say your partner has something come up in their life and they really need help doing drop off. You can't be like, no, I've disengaged from that and screw you. Like those are the things where I think that it really breeds more disconnection in your relationship instead of having those open and honest conversations.
Yeah, and that's fair. If it's an issue or they're being brats and it's an awful experience for you, then it's great that you could come to me and say, this is not going to continue to happen this way. And then I have to deal with it. But you're there still to support me. You haven't said, well, this is something that I'm never, ever going to do again, or, it's not my problem or whatever that.
Not your mom. I think the most powerful thing that when you're looking at disengaging as a stepmom, and again, I do have a whole workshop on this inside the KICK-ASS Stepmom. So you can go through like a step-by-step process. There's a quiz to see if you really should be disengaging. And then I walk you through strategies on how to do that. And as well as you also get strategies on how to communicate with your partner about those stressors so that, it doesn't cause an argument between the two of you. But asking yourself, is what I'm doing working? And is it impacting my ability to show up as my best?
And there also are times when you have to disengage. Just things are overwhelming. You've got too much on your plate and you need that for yourself personally. And I've been understanding. At first, I didn't understand it. But then now as time has gone on, when you walked into this new world and there was so much going on, it was good for you sometimes to disengage. And I just have to roll up my sleeves and do a lot more because you weren't there. But you needed that time away or needed to step away. And then sometimes you feel rejuvenated and you come back and you're better than ever as a family unit.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me more? Like, when has that happened?
I think it happened a lot more when the kids were younger because they were a lot more needy. And there was so much going on with extracurricular activities, keeping the house clean, just our busy schedules. And I think there were a lot of times where, you needed to go down to your room at the end of the house and just have the evening to yourself, or you weren't going to come to that extracurricular activity. Or you know what? This weekend you weren't doing anything. You were going to go and do yoga and journal and do your own thing. And there were a lot of times where that was, I think, your way of, I'm disengaging for a while here because this is becoming overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Or it would be dealing with the ex. You would just step away from the whole situation when you would be very involved, and you needed to be involved at times because it affected both of us. But you would say, I can't do this. I'm stepping away. You deal with it. Mm-hmm. And you did that all the time. But then you would come back. You didn't do it forever. That was the great thing. When you disengaged, you would disengage for a period until I think you got your head back on straight or you felt comfortable again stepping back in. And I had to realize that it wasn't that you were walking away from us or the family. You just needed that space because this is new and it can be overwhelming and it's a lot. And then when we had Reese, I think at that point too, you really had to disengage for a while because you concentrated on her. She was young and a baby and needed, more help than the other kids because they were older. And that might not have been being a stepmom. That might have been just having a new baby, and it was your responsibility. So that's what I've seen over the years. Now I think it's, when as they're older, it's drawing a boundary sometimes of what you're going to put up with and what you're not.
I'm a huge lover of Element. It is my go-to electrolyte drink and a longtime sponsor of the podcast. So yes, Element is a tasty electrolyte drink with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means lots of salt and no sugar, no artificial ingredients, no coloring, no BS. It is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited if you're following a keto, a low carb, or a paleo diet. I just did the metabolic reset, which I've shared about on the podcast, and it was totally okay on that as well. Basically, if you're a professional athlete or you're just an everyday mom, it is for you. Element is a huge part of my day-to-day, whether it be rehydrating during workouts, when I'm traveling, after maybe a little too much wine, in my cocktails and my mocktails. Like, I am always popping the Element salt into my drinks. 100 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. I have one every day. Seriously though, about the cocktails, throw in some lime Element salt with soda, tequila, lime, and mint. It is so delicious. So staying hydrated is a crucial and huge priority of mine. And proper hydration isn't just about drinking water. It means having adequate water and salt. And big news, Element just introduced Element Sparkling. So again, no sugar, there's no caffeine in this, all electrolytes. Element Sparkling delivers the same zero sugar electrolyte formulation that I have been telling you guys about, now in a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling water. I couldn't have got better news. This is so exciting. I am such a fan of Element. Already put it in my soda water. So this is just, wow, this just made my life so much easier. Element Sparkling offers health seekers an all-new option to support their health across the board spectrum of occasions. So with each can, you're taking a sip against sugar and stimulant-loaded drinks, and you're turning the tide towards health. I am so pumped for this. To grab some Element, head to www.drinklmnt.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom and get a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase. That's just the drink mix purchase. I love these free sample packs because it just gives you a chance to try all the flavors and decide which one is your fave. Mine is watermelon. Darren loves lime. Head to www.drinkelement.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom to get a free sample pack with a purchase of a drink mix and keep your eye out for the new Element Sparkling. Seriously, cannot wait. The mental load of the mom and stepmom is wild. If you know, you know. From work to finances to kids to co-parenting to managing schedules to self-care, I feel like if I'm not actively trying to manage my stress, well, it manages me. Especially during this season of my life, stress management is a huge focus and a priority of mine. So from having alone time in the morning, to journaling, to regularly working out, to eating healthy, I'm always trying to do what I can for my body and my mind to show up as my best. And something that I have recently added to my routine is starting my morning with Rituals Stress Relief. So this product uses first-of-its-kind technology to support the body's natural cortisol response so that you can take on the daily juggle. Rituals Stress Relief BioSeries technology is designed to optimize the release of a trio of clinically studied ingredients to help the body manage stress. Clinically studied to support normal cortisol levels and reduce stress and provide quick stress relief within the hour, it's this non-drowsy sense of calm. Again, clinically studied to promote positive mood and reduce stress. All of that sounds amazing. Am I right? So Ritual suggests taking stress relief in the morning when cortisol is typically at its peak to support the body's natural cortisol response. The best thing about Ritual supplements is that they have an instant and an extended release formulation for all-day support, up to 8 hours. I'm also a big fan of Ritual's multivitamin for women, which is designed to help fill all of the nutritional gaps in our diet. Ritual also has daily protein, symbiotic and gut health, sleep and BioSeries melatonin, among others, to support you in showing up as your best. The struggle is real. Don't just respond to stress. Get ahead of it with stress release from Ritual. Get 25% off your first month at www.ritual.com/stepmom. Start Ritual today or add stress relief to your subscription today. That's www.ritual.com/stepmom for 25% off. www.ritual.com/stepmom for 25% off.
So a lot of stepmoms really struggle because they want to tell their partner that they need to disengage. And I think a lot of partners have this idea that it's just going to act the way a first family would act, that stepmom's going to come in and she's going to be there for the whole weekend and they're going to do all these activities together and it's going to be all kumbaya. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's great, but sometimes stepmoms are like, God, I don't want to be involved in everything. I am really struggling right now. You know what? I get a little bit of anxiety before the kids come. This is so much on me. Like I'm struggling right now. And they want to talk to their partner about it, but they don't want their partner to be like, well, you don't care. Like, this is how it is. You're a shitty stepmom. Because there are partners who respond in that way.
Well, I think to the partner that responds like that, there is this thought that, now you're a family unit again. Let's do everything as a family. Let's be the family unit. That might be something that if somebody was divorced and on their own for a while, they crave that again. But you also don't want to be shifted right into the position of, say, the ex. And what I think a lot of spouses have to realize that when you have a stepmother involved, it's not going to be the same as your previous relationship from a standpoint of a family unit. Obviously you don't want the relationship probably to be the same because there was a reason you got out of that marriage. And I think that a lot of times that's the mentality that, and we had that issue at the beginning too. We had friends that were couples friends of mine that, you didn't want to just slide in and be, the new wife hanging out with all the same group of people. You wanted to make your own way, whether it was with those people or new people or other people or your friends. So I think that's where the father has to realize, husband has to realize, the new spouse is not necessarily just going to slide into that role. And I think that's a big thing for them to realize. And when you say disengage, it's okay that they're disengaging. They still love you. But yeah, you didn't want to go to everything we would do on a weekend, and you found it exhausting and you weren't used to it. And you maybe didn't even like some of that stuff.
And you don't even need to go to everything too. I think there's like this, when it comes to even the extracurricular activities, there's this mentality that stepmoms need to be at every single thing. There are times when, as the mom, I'm not at every single thing. We have divided and conquered with the kids so many times. Like, not all kids have all parents at every single thing, every single time. Like, that schedule is crazy. So you deciding to opt out of something doesn't mean you don't care, and doesn't mean that you don't care about the kids. It's just maybe not gonna work.
Yeah, and I think you would worry about that more than a mother would of their own children, because you would think, okay, am I under the spotlight?
For sure. So one of the stepmoms said, I feel like I'm ignoring if I disengage. Like, how do I do this in a positive way? So it's not like your stepkids come up to you and they're like, hey, can I go to my friend's house? And you just don't answer. Like, you're no longer participating in the family. Like, when you're disengaging, what you're really doing is leaning on your partner to take the lead. And so a lot of times stepmoms will say to me, well, do I have to talk to the kids and tell them I'm taking a step back, that I'm disengaging? I've disengaged so many times, sometimes just from one specific thing, sometimes from one specific stepchild, right? If we were struggling with one of the kids, I would 100% not be dealing with any of the discipline, any direction. I was really just kind of being there as I would be for the other kids, but not going all in. Or when it comes to the ex, there's no conversations that need to happen. You just kind of start to shift how you're showing up, and you can still do that with love. So again, for example, kid comes up, it's like, can I do this on the weekend? Or something's going on. And be like, yeah, why don't you go ask your dad about that? It can be as simple as that. Or the ex reaches out and you've disengaged from communicating with the ex. You say, I think you and Darren should tackle that one. It's not a big event. I mean, you don't have to come out and say, here's what I'm actually doing, but you come up and say, I love you, but I'm just going to take a step back from a few things. Nothing to do. I just need to get my head clear. It's a bit much for me right now. I need you to take the lead on this. And it's always been fine. I've always found that better than it blowing up and being, I'm so sick of this and I can't deal with this. And, I've never done that.
Not in a while, but.
No, yeah. And, I was on a podcast interview the other day and the girl says, it's really important to have these conversations when your emotions are low and your cognition is high. And so again, it goes back to those conversations. Is what I'm doing working? Is it impacting my ability to show up as my best?
Yeah.
And so I think partners need to understand that this is just a different experience for the stepmom. So how can you disengage and still show up in a healthy way?
I think you can still support your spouse if it's disengaging from the kids. If it's disengaging from one child, I think the other children you can support. Also, just being there to, again, bounce ideas off of, still giving advice maybe quietly in the background, but not having to confront situations, not having to be involved. And again, if it's disengaging just because things are so busy, like you said, not going to extracurricular activities, maybe not being involved in extra tutor or school, I think it's just being a support in the background, but also probably taking some time to, get back to yourself where you can engage in a lot of things. And I just think that, maybe when we were in the thick of things, I didn't recognize that you needed that, or we were just, because I'm in the thick of things, that, it's just, hey, I just need to take a step back for a little bit, but it's nothing personal. It's nothing to do. My love for the family is still 100%. I'm just feeling for this period, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm just a little tired. I'm just need a break. But explaining it and like you said, when emotions aren't high and it doesn't come to a boiling point because of an incident or an event.
Well, you're explaining this because someone says, like, how do I do this without him thinking I'm not all in? You're doing this because you are all in. I think that it's so powerful. Like, you and I have had these conversations about what do we want for our kids? What do we want for our family? I do a lot of work on what is my goal as a stepmom? How do I want to show up? What do I want the kids to remember when they think about me, when they look back as an adult? Right? So those are your goals and your North Star as a stepmom and your step family. So everything that you do really should come back to that. So when you do disengage, it's not like, screw you, you didn't listen to me. You wouldn't made a decision that I said, I wasn't on board with the kids. Like, you're not communicating with me about the schedule, I'm out. Like, screw you, you're on your own. No, it's like, how do I get back and get us to a place where we can have these open and honest conversations about how I'm feeling and disengage in a way that helps us reset that foundation so we're closer to the goals that we have set for our family, right? And it is about checking your ego. Because sometimes when you've disengaged from something, but your partner needs help in that specific area, like an example comes up where he needs you to show up for the kids and maybe you've disengaged from that area, but that's what's best for your family unit at a time. You got to check your ego in, like pop back in for a little bit. Like, there was a time when I was not talking to the ex. We have had times when we're the only ones who communicate and it goes really well. But then I was getting to the point where my anxiety was through the roof. I didn't know what to expect. There was just a lot going on with like lawyers and things like that. And I was just so overwhelmed. And remember, I decided, I was like, I'm done talking to her. I'm taking a step back from that. And I didn't talk to her for a couple of years, actually. I didn't tell anyone, like, it wasn't, I just told Darren and I just kind of stopped engaging. And then something came up one day. You were at work. She needed a document that we had. And it was in the best interest of my stepson and the best interest of everyone for me to just re-engage in that moment, help everyone out, deal with it. And then I kind of like took a step back from that. But then a couple months later, I was like, you know what? I think we're all in a different place. And I ended up reaching out to her about something that had come up with my stepson with no expectations, because she might not be in the place where she's ready to re-engage. But you just see what happens, right? Like, this isn't a hard and fast rule that if you disengage, you're out. And you can also like disengage based on the day. Because like teenagers, one of our teenagers, you don't know who you're going to get each day. Like there's teenager moods, right? Sometimes they want to sit in the kitchen and talk to you and tell you about their day. And they're like, hey, and it's that you're having the best time. And then other times teenagers just want to like go up and like chill in their rooms. And so on those days, you kind of pick up their vibe and be like, okay, like what works for our relationship in that day?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, there's just times where you've disengaged, but you need to help for the greater good.
I am and always have been very obsessive about moisturizing my skin since as long as I can remember. I love getting out of the shower and just putting on a good lotion. And I always moisturize my legs and feet and arms and my whole body before I go to bed. In fact, I am so dedicated to this routine that even if I get out of bed and then I get back into bed, I do the whole lotion routine again. Darren's always like, Jamie, are you serious right now? Anyway, my moisturizing game is strong. And for the longest time, I have been looking for a super hydrating, clean, vegan, cruelty-free moisturizer that works and that I love. And I am proud to share that I have found one and I am obsessed. It is from Osea. I have been using the collagen body lotion and the anti-aging body balm, and they're so amazing. The collagen body lotion is ultra hydrating, it's lightweight, and scientifically proven to visibly firm skin in just 4 hours. No joke, it does, and as we get older, we kind of need that support. When I hydrate, I want my skin to feel dewy and moisturized and firm and soft, and this stuff does it. It is packed with clinically proven ingredients, including vegan collagen and hyaluronic acid, to deliver lasting hydration for radiant, revitalized skin. Again, it also gives my skin this dewy look, which I love. In fact, this weekend I was up at the cottage and a friend was like, what are you using on your skin? It looks so dewy, I'm obsessed. And it was Osea. I'm also using the anti-aging body balm. It combines lasting hydration of the lotion and then the anti-aging benefits of a serum. I love it as well. So for over 27 years, Osea has been on a mission to create clean, seaweed-infused skincare that respects the natural world and makes skin look and feel its absolute best, which they're obviously accomplishing. So today it's called Clean Beauty, but it is what Osea has been doing since the beginning. Products are infused with seaweed because it's rich in vitamins and minerals and nutrients with endless benefits from the ocean. You have to go check out their site. There are so many products to choose from, and I cannot wait to try more. From skincare to hair products to body scrubs, there's just so many amazing products to choose from. So go to oseamalibu.com and use the code KICK-ASS Stepmom at checkout, and you're going to get 10% off your order. That's www.oseamalibu.com and use the code KICK-ASS Stepmom at checkout to get 10% off your order.
Okay, last question. Disengaging amidst the court proceedings specifically. How do I disengage from not feeling overwhelmed with court and all of that? We're going to do a tell-all podcast in the membership about that. Do you time block? Do you set up times when you only talk about it? How do you let it not consume you? I think it's just going to consume you.
Well, I do think near the end you did disengage. I mean, we would be going through stuff and you would want to know what happened, what was said, but we kind of left it at that, once because it was more of a matter of fact moment. I think when we used to have stuff going on all the time, it was very difficult because we would be dealing with things and it would become not a daily conversation, but, we would just talk about it. We don't talk about it as much because, again, we're through most of it and it's a lot better, but are still times we just bring it up and talk about it. But we'll make sure that we sometimes have periods where we just wouldn't. If we went out for a night for dinner, we might say, we're not going to talk about this tonight.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know you can talk about, if that's the number one thing going on in your life right now, you guys are partners, you're a team, you're going to have to talk about this stuff, period. Right? So I don't think it's realistic to be you never talk about the ex. This is a problem in your relationship, so you need to deal with it. But I think it's really important to, instead of going on the vent session, she's this, she's that, she needs to show up like that. Just so you know, the ex is going to show up the way she's showing up now for the trajectory of your relationship, your co-parenting relationship. Shit is not going to change. She is not going to all of a sudden send you a message and be you know what? Well, maybe she will, but she probably won't. You were an amazing stepmom. I wish I would have shown you how great you have been this whole time. You're right. I am being a complete biatch. She's not going to change, right? So the key is to go into solution focused mode. And instead of venting and complaining about what's going on, you and your partner be okay, how do we minimize the impact that this has on me? And that's a lot of the work that we do in my coaching programs and inside the membership too. It's it is what it is. This is what's happening in your life. How do you minimize the impact that it has on you? Go into problem solving mode. Darren and I will usually go okay, what's our worst case scenario here? What are we going to do if that happens? And then you just feel so much better when you're okay, and then what? And then what? And then what?
And I will just say this to anyone listening, Jamie is right, because I don't know how many times over the last 12 years I would come to her and say, yeah, things are good. I think we've kind of settled it out. I think we can, we got a nice trajectory here of getting along and things are solved and numbers are solved. And 3 months later, it was back to the same thing. And I'd be and then it would be, oh, no, I think things are fine. I think we finally got everything figured out. It's been weighed in by the legal system, and then there would be another angle. So you just have to almost get used to, and when you think things are good, enjoy it, but always be looking over your shoulder that it's probably not. But again, we don't have as much to deal with as we once did. So I do feel for those people that are still in the thick of it. But no, it does get better.
I just wish I would have stopped expecting anything different, right? That's my big piece of advice. Stop expecting anything different. If she's done the same thing 5 times now, and the 6th times it happens, don't be surprised. At some point, you have to take responsibility for letting that creep into your life the way it has been again, right? You need to set those boundaries, or you need to have those, rules in place, or disengage or whatever, and just manage your expectations around that. But yeah, for me, disengaging from just day-to-day co-parenting stuff. And now we're back communicating here and there when we need to. But, I think a big thing that stepmoms do struggle with is disengaging when they are the ones who are always in control and they worry that their partner's not going to step up the way that they should step up, or things are going to get missed, or things are not going to be done the right way, or all of the things. Honestly, F it. Like, it will all work itself out. Give the guy some credit. It may not be the exact way that you want it to be done, but with some communication and some patience, checking your ego, a lot of the things that we really feel like we need to have our fingers on all the time, once you let it go, you're going to have a lot more peace in your life.
Yeah, it's frustrating at times, but I guess it is knowing what the pattern's going to be becomes a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And dealing with it, because you can hope for the best, but like they say, expect the worst. And we got to a point where that's what we did. And if it was better, that was great.
Well, even the other day we were having a conversation. You're like, well, I wish she, and I said, why are you expecting any different? Like, it's 12 years of the same behavior. Why are you expecting any different? Why are we even giving this any energy? And I'm not saying that to throw any shade. I'm just saying we have different perspectives, different roles, different values in parenting. So stop expecting any different. So I do actually, if you were like, okay, I'm kind of getting this whole thing on disengaging, this is definitely a kind of a new approach to it. I do have a quiz that you can take. It takes like 60 seconds to see if disengaging is the right thing for you. So it's jamiescrimger.com/should I disengage? And then inside KICK-ASS Stepmom, I have workshop on how to disengage the right way. I have workshops on how to communicate with your partner about your stepfamily stress without getting in a big ass fight, how to improve your relationship with your stepkids. There's lots of resources in there. So I definitely recommend checking that out. So that's at www.KICK-ASS-Stepmom.com. But yeah, disengaging, honestly, I have disengaged and re-engaged in several different capacities. I want to say hundreds of times. It's probably not that many times, but so many times. And I think
it could be hundreds of times over the last.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of like this dance. Remember, is what I'm doing working? Is it impacting my ability to show up? Like, you can step in and step out based on what's best for your family at that time. And it's a super, super powerful tool. And your partner shouldn't get mad at you if they do send questions.
Well, again, if you do it
the
right way and have a nice conversation instead of, like you said, when emotions are higher, things are boiling over, or there's a big incident, because then it makes it worse.
Yeah. Like, it's not really good when you're like, F you, this is not my kids, not my problem. Like, that is probably not the best approach.
Yes. I'll agree with that.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We will chat with you in the next one. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with someone in your life who you think could benefit from it. And if you haven't already left a rating and a review on iTunes, it really is the best way to support the show. And if you're craving more real talk and coaching and community, be sure to check out my membership, the KICK-ASS Stepmom community. Head to www.KICK-ASS-Stepmom.com to learn more.